The facility manager turns his monitor toward us and taps one line with the blunt end of a pen. Yesterday, 6:43 p.m. gate entry, 6:47 second floor access. Marcus looks from me to Nolan. That was his personal code. My husband's code opened my storage unit for his mistress's luggage. The 2 suitcases are already gone. The glamorous woman is gone. Even Diane, who ushered her inside while telling her to hurry, has vanished into the reasonable version of events she and Nolan prepared for me. Nolan leans closer to the screen. His hand settles on my shoulder, gentle and heavy. That doesn't prove who entered the numbers. It is such a precise answer that I stop breathing for a second. Marcus swivels the monitor back. No, it tells us whose code they used. Nolan squeezes my shoulder. To Marcus, it probably looks reassuring. To me, it feels like a warning. 18 hours earlier, I was pushing a squeaky orange cart down that same hallway, irritated about folding chairs. Diane had called during lunch to ask whether I was still bringing 12 chairs to her retirement dinner. 10, I had corrected. The restaurant provides 40. You have 48 guests. Your list says 50. 2 people declined. They declined to you. They replied to the invitation. Well, I didn't see it. Because I had designed the invitations, tracked the responses, negotiated the restaurant's private room fee, ordered the flowers, and made a spreadsheet Diane claimed she couldn't open even after I printed it for her. Nolan called this kind of work my superpower. Diane called it helping. I called it Tuesday. My storage unit was on the second floor of Safekeep at the far end of a corridor that always smelled faintly of cardboard and cold concrete. I rented it 6 years before I married Nolan, back when my event production business operated out of a studio apartment, and the only way to reach my bed was to climb over crates of candle holders. Unit 218 held 10 folding chairs, 4 tables, linen racks, lamps, vases, boxes of extension cords, and enough sea green glassware to serve 100 people if none of them dropped anything. Nolan called the unit dead space every time the annual rent increased. $800 to keep glasses you're afraid to use, he'd said the previous month. I use them. You use 12. You're housing the other 88. 96. That's worse, Elise. I had been smiling when I corrected him. Nolan could make disapproval sound like flirting. It was one of the things I loved about him, though lately I'd started wondering whether that charm worked because he was charming or because I kept doing half the work for it. My cart's bad wheel announced me around the corner with a rhythmic ka-thunk. That was when I heard Diane's voice. Quickly, before she decides to come by, I stopped. Diane stood outside Unit 218 in cream trousers and the soft gray coat I'd helped Nolan choose for her birthday. She had one hand under the rolling door. With the other, she waved a woman toward the opening. The woman was hard to miss. Tall, dark hair clipped at the nape, camel-colored jacket, heeled boots that had no business on a storage facility floor. She pulled 2 matching suitcases, glossy black with tan leather straps, not overnight bags, the kind of luggage people photographed beside hotel beds. Diane ducked her head and saw me. For one unguarded second, her whole face changed. Her mouth opened. Her hand dropped from the door. The glamorous woman turned. I knew her. Not well. I had met Camille Rowe twice at events for Nolan's architecture firm. She was a branding consultant on the Harlow Hotel conversion, the one Nolan talked about over dinner until I could recognize floor plans I'd never seen. Camille had shaken my hand at a December cocktail party and told me my green glass centerpieces made the room feel underwater. Now she was standing at my storage unit with 2 suitcases. Elise. Diane recovered first. She always did. What are you doing here? I looked at the orange cart. Bowling. Camille's gaze moved from me to Diane. The joke landed nowhere. I need chairs, I said. For your dinner. Yes, of course. Diane's voice brightened. That's what we're doing too. With suitcases. Samples, Camille said. Her voice was lower than I remembered. Calm, but she gripped the suitcase handle with both hands. What kind of samples? Textiles. For the hotel, Diane added. Nolan asked if I could help. I looked past them into my unit. The overhead bulb was off, but light from the corridor caught the brass corners of my walnut linen cabinet. One suitcase was already behind it. A section of blue linen had been pulled loose from the rack and hung crooked, as if someone had tried to cover the luggage. Camille tugged the second case over the threshold. "Could you not?" I said. She stopped. Diane's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me? Could you not put that in my unit until someone tells me what's happening?" Nolan said it would be fine. Nolan isn't here. He's in a client meeting. Camille's had a terrible day. Camille's jaw tightened. Diane. What? You have? I stepped closer. How did you open the unit? Diane pulled the rolling door down so quickly that Camille had to snatch her fingers away. The metal hit the concrete with a hard, echoing crash. "Why are you making this ugly?" Diane asked. I stared at her. "I asked how you opened my unit. And I told you Nolan asked me to help. Honestly, Elise, not every favor is a criminal conspiracy." Camille reached for the handle of the suitcase that remained outside. Diane caught her wrist. "It's fine," Diane told her. It did not seem fine to Camille. She looked at me with something I couldn't place. Not guilt, exactly. Recognition, maybe. The look one woman gives another when a man has described her too thoroughly. Then she pulled her suitcase back toward the elevator. Diane watched her go. "Now look what you've done." I laughed once because the alternative was shouting. "I came here for chairs. You came around that corner like you were trying to catch someone. It's my storage unit, which Nolan pays for." "No, he doesn't. You're married. Must everything be divided into his and yours?" "Apparently not. My space could be his. His instructions could be Diane's authority. Camille's luggage could be my problem. Only my questions required boundaries." Diane smoothed the front of her coat. "I am not arguing in a hallway. Get the chairs, I'll call Camille." "Open the door." I don't know the code. The keypad beside the door showed 4 faint fingerprints in the dust. "You just had it open." It didn't lock when the previous person left. The unit door locked automatically when it closed. Diane knew that. She had helped me unload vases there in August. Who was the previous person? Her expression hardened, not because she lacked an answer, but because she resented needing one. "Call your husband," she said. Then she walked away. I did call him. 3 times from the corridor, once from the parking lot, and again after I loaded the chairs alone. He finally answered when I was pulling into our driveway. "I'm about to go into dinner," Nolan said. Restaurant noise moved behind his voice. Silverware, laughter, a woman asking someone to pass a menu. "Is Camille with you?" A pause. Tiny, but there. "Camille." Row. "I know which Camille. Why?" "I just saw her at my storage unit with your mother." "What?" 2 suitcases. Your mother put one behind my linen cabinet." Another voice near him said something I couldn't hear. Nolan covered the phone, then came back quieter. "I'm at the Harlow dinner, Elise. I asked if Camille's there. She's supposed to be, yes. I haven't seen her yet. I parked but left the engine running. Through the windshield, our kitchen windows glowed warm against the dark. I could see the pendant light above the island and the green glass key dish near the mudroom door. What's in the suitcases?" "How would I know?" "Your mother said you asked her to put them there." "I asked Mom to help Camille move some hotel samples. So you do know." "I know about samples. I don't know about suitcases." His impatience arrived, clean and familiar. "There's a delivery mix-up. The hotel loading dock closes at 6. Camille's short-term rental won't accept commercial items, and Mom was nearby. I suggested the unit. I was trying to solve a problem." "My unit. Our unit. You call it dead space. And you've spent 3 years insisting it's useful. I finally found a use." The engine hummed under me. "Why did your mother tell Camille to hurry before I came by?" "She said that? I heard her. I wasn't there, Elise. Why did she lie about knowing the code?" "I don't know what she said. I don't know what you heard. You get spun up around my mother, and then every sentence becomes evidence. There it was. Not an answer, but a diagnosis. Camille left with one suitcase, I said. The other one stayed inside. Okay. Okay? I don't understand what you want me to say. We're talking about fabric in a locked room. I want you to tell me why your mother was hiding another woman's luggage in my storage unit. His breath changed. Luggage, he repeated. Yes. You're sure it wasn't a sample case? I know what a suitcase looks like. I'm asking because you just called Camille glamorous. I did not. You did last time we saw her. At the Harlow cocktail party 2 months ago. Right. So maybe you already had a story in your head when you turned that corner. I shut off the car. The sudden silence rang. What story? That she's attractive, that we work late, that my mother likes her. Pick one. Does your mother like her? Elise? Is Camille staying somewhere else? She's a consultant. Consultants travel. That wasn't my question. He lowered his voice. You are sitting in our driveway building an affair out of luggage. Until he said the word, I had not. I had been thinking about access, about Diane's hand under the door, about blue linen pulled over black leather, about the fact that Camille had looked embarrassed while Diane looked entitled. Now I pictured Nolan at the Harlow dining table with Camille's empty chair near him. Is she your mistress? The restaurant noise seemed to move farther away. Then Nolan laughed softly. It was not a cruel laugh. That made it worse. It was the laugh of a man whose wife had surprised him by becoming ridiculous. No, he said, she's not my mistress. Then why are her clothes in my unit? You haven't established there are clothes in anything. I saw the suitcase. You saw a case. Your mother called it a favor because it was. She told Camille to hurry because the facility was closing. It's open until 10. Mom probably didn't know that. She's been there before. Do you hear yourself? I looked through the kitchen window again. 2 sets of keys usually sat in that green dish. Mine were in my purse. His were already home, which meant he had driven to dinner from the house with someone else or taken a car service. I hadn't known he'd come home between work and the Harlow. What time were you at the house? I asked. What? Your keys are in the dish. How can you see my keys from the driveway? Because the light's on. Another pause. I changed jackets, he said. I took the sedan service with Owen. Are we inventorying my movements now? I'm inventorying mine, my unit, my chairs, my linen, a suitcase behind my cabinet. Go inside, he said. Eat something. I'll be home after dinner, and we'll talk when you're not sitting alone in the dark, frightening yourself. The line went dead. By the time Nolan came home, I had reheated soup, washed the pot, and lined Diane's 10 folding chairs against the dining room wall. He dropped his borrowed car service umbrella in the stand and kissed the side of my head as if nothing had happened. His keys were not in the green dish anymore. I touched the empty space where they had been. Nolan followed my hand. What? Nothing. He loosened his tie. Where are the chairs? I pointed. Good. He smiled, relieved by something ordinary. Mom will calm down once she sees those. Will she? She thinks you accused her of breaking into the unit. I asked how she got in. She had my code. The answer came too easily. You gave it to her? A while ago. When? I don't know. August, maybe. In August, she used mine because you said you couldn't remember yours. Nolan opened the refrigerator and studied its contents with exaggerated concentration. Then later. For what? He took out a bottle of water. Do I need a notarized reason? No. A believable one would be enough. The refrigerator door closed. His face changed, the smile gone. I have never cheated on you, he said. I have never hidden a woman's clothes. I tried to help someone from work, and my mother made it awkward because she makes everything awkward. If you need this to be uglier than that, I can't stop you. He walked upstairs with the water. The next morning, the suitcase behind the linen cabinet was gone. Nolan stood in the open unit with his hands in his coat pockets while I checked behind tables I knew had not moved. "There," he said gently. "Now can we breathe?" Marcus was passing with a clipboard when I asked whether he could check the entry log. Nolan's head lifted. 10 minutes later, we were in the office looking at his code on the screen. When Marcus said it had opened the gate and the second-floor corridor, Nolan's hand landed on my shoulder. "That doesn't prove who entered the numbers." I looked at his reflection in the dark edge of the monitor. "No," I said, "but it proves you knew someone had them." His fingers tightened once, then released me. Marcus cleared his throat. "Would you like me to deactivate that code?" Nolan answered first. "No." I held his gaze. "Yes," I said, "I would." Marcus clicked through 2 confirmation boxes. Nolan leaned over the desk. "She can't just remove me." "The account is in her name," Marcus said. "We're married." Marcus glanced at me as if marriage might be a medical condition I needed help disclosing. "There was an authorized user form," he said. "Authorization can be withdrawn by the account holder. I have property in that unit." "What property?" I asked. Nolan turned. "Things from the house. Name one." "That walnut cabinet." "It was mine before we met." "The lamps." "Mine." "The folding tables." "Also mine." His mouth flattened. He had never cared where those objects came from because they appeared when he needed them and disappeared when he didn't. Ownership was an inconvenience that had arrived with consequences. Marcus slid a printed confirmation across the desk. "The code is inactive. If you have a dispute over the contents, you'll need to settle that between yourselves." Nolan didn't take the paper. I did. He waited until we were outside to say, "You enjoyed that." Cold wind swept between the rows of storage buildings. "What?" "Making me stand there while you listed your possessions." "You said you had things inside." "I do." "Then tell me what they are." He shoved his hands into his coat pockets and walked toward his car. "It's not about the lamps." "No, it's about the suitcase." "There is no suitcase." "There was yesterday." "Elise, if you believe I'm having an affair, say it. Don't drag a facility manager into our marriage because you like having a witness." The word witness landed harder than I expected. "I asked you last night, and I answered you. You laughed at me? Because it was absurd. Then why are you angry about losing access to dead space?" He opened his car door. "Because my wife is punishing me for something I didn't do." "You gave your mother your code." "Yes. And she lied about having it. Take that up with her." "I did. She told me to call you." "Then apparently we've completed the circle." He got in and shut the door. I stayed in the parking lot until his car disappeared. Then I went back upstairs. The linen cabinet had been shifted 3 inches to the left. I knew because one foot had always sat over a rust-colored stain in the concrete. Now the stain showed like a small, ugly bruise. Behind the cabinet, I found a black plastic wheel cap no bigger than a quarter. One of the suitcases had lost it. I put the cap in my coat pocket. It was nearly weightless, which irritated me. Evidence ought to have some heft. The retirement dinner was 9 days away. When I got home, I opened the planning spreadsheet, removed my name from the vendor contact column, and emailed it to Diane. She called before I could close my laptop. "What does this mean?" "It means everything is listed for you." "I can see that. Why did you remove your name?" "Because I'm not producing the dinner." Silence followed by a brittle little laugh. "Don't be dramatic." "I'm not canceling anything. The restaurant is reserved. The guest count is current. The florist needs final approval by Thursday and the bakery needs payment." "You promised to handle this." "I promised before you used my storage unit to hide Camille's luggage. For heaven's sake, it was one case." I sat back. Diane inhaled sharply. "One case?" I asked. "I mean one incident, one misunderstanding." "You said you didn't know it was luggage. I said I didn't inspect it." Camille was upset. "Nolan asked me to help, so I helped." "With what?" "I have already explained this." "No, you've changed your explanation 3 times." Elise, I spent 34 years working in hospital administration. I am not going to be cross-examined over a favor. Diane had spent 34 years making physicians apologize for failing to submit forms. She believed cross-examination was rude only when she wasn't conducting it. Then we don't have to discuss it, I said. The restaurant coordinator is Jenna. Her number is in the sheet. I don't know Jenna. She knows you. That's not the same thing. No, I said, it isn't. Her voice softened. You're angry with Nolan. I'm angry with both of you. Marriage is long, Elise. If you turn every uncomfortable moment into a loyalty test, you'll spend your life disappointed. I thought of the blue linen draped over the suitcase. What did he tell you about Camille? That she needed help. Did he tell you not to tell me? He said there was no reason to bother you. There it was. Small enough to step over, sharp enough to cut. And that didn't seem strange. You're busy. You don't like people touching your event things. He was trying to avoid exactly this. Exactly what? A reaction out of proportion to the event. I smiled at the laptop screen, called Jenna. Elise, I ended the call. That evening, Nolan came home carrying Thai food from the place I liked. He set the paper bag on the kitchen island and placed his keys in the green glass dish. The clink made me look up before I could stop myself. He noticed. I'm still coming home, he said. What a strange thing to say. You keep looking at my keys like you expect them to confess. I expect you to. He took cartons from the bag. Basil chicken for him, vegetable curry for me, coconut rice to share. He had remembered the extra lime wedges. That was the problem with Nolan. He did not forget me. He remembered me selectively. Mom called, he said. I assumed she would. She's embarrassed. She should be. She's embarrassed about the dinner. That's more believable. He pushed my curry across the island. She doesn't know how to do what you do. She could learn. She's 62 and just retired. She ran a hospital department. You know what I mean. I do. You mean she doesn't want to. He opened his carton and then closed it again. You're going to pull out 9 days before her dinner because she stored one work case for me? It became a work case again? He rubbed his forehead. Suitcase. Fine. Camille kept brand materials in a suitcase because she was moving between rentals. Is the container the betrayal now? No. The lying is. What lie? Your mother said she didn't know your code. You said she had it since sometime after August. Camille said they were textiles. You said they were commercial samples. Now they're brand materials. The suitcase disappeared overnight, even though Camille was supposed to be at the Harlow dinner. She picked it up. When? I don't know. The facility does. He looked at me. Your code was used at 12:14. His face remained still, but the skin around his eyes tightened. You went back, I said. No. Who did? I don't know. Your mother? Possibly. At midnight? She was trying to undo a mess. Whose mess? He pushed away from the island. I brought you dinner because I wanted one night where we didn't do this. I didn't ask for dinner. No, you just sit there waiting for me to pick the right offering. I looked at the lime wedges arranged in their little clear cup. Nolan paced to the sink. Do you know what Owen asked me today? He asked whether the launch dinner was still on because you haven't responded to the lighting vendor. The lighting vendor asked me to approve an additional charge. It's your firm's event. You've always handled it. I've always helped. So now you're going to punish my business too. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm no longer doing unpaid work while you lie to me. You don't know that I lied. I know your code opened the unit twice. You know someone used it. The distinction again, polished from repetition. He turned to face me. If I were having an affair with Camille, do you honestly think I would hide her luggage in a unit attached to your name? I didn't think you'd let your mother put it there. Exactly. It makes no sense. It made terrible sense if he believed I would never arrive unannounced. I usually scheduled visits. I kept inventory sheets. I told Nolan when I was picking things up because he teased me about running my glassware like a military supply chain. Diane's dinner had added 2 guests. If it hadn't, I would have collected only 8 chairs, and I would have taken them the following week with the linens. Nolan had known my original plan. The thought was so cold and clean that I lost my appetite. He mistook my silence for progress and came around the island. "We've had a hard month," he said. "The hotel project is bleeding time. Mom is retiring, which is making her anxious and controlling. You've been taking too many events. Everybody is tired." His hand rested beside mine, not touching. "We can decide not to destroy our marriage over an ugly 48 hours. I looked at his wedding band. A pale line of flower marked his cuff, probably from the restaurant bag. "Show me your messages with Camille." His hand withdrew. "No." "Why?" "Because I'm not submitting my work conversations for inspection. If there's nothing there..." That sentence is how people justify every invasion of privacy, and trust me is how people avoid every consequence. He gathered his keys from the dish. The glass gave a faint scrape against the quartz. "I'm sleeping at Mom's." "Of course you are." He flinched as though I had slapped him, then left the food cooling on the island. The next morning, our joint checking account was $8,000 lighter. The transfer description read Firm Expense Reserve. I called Nolan. He declined the call and texted instead. "Protecting upcoming obligations. We'll discuss tonight." The mortgage payment was scheduled for Friday. So were the automatic withdrawals for insurance, utilities, and the credit card we used for groceries. There was enough to cover them, but only because my last event payment had cleared 2 days earlier. I moved my business income into the separate account my bookkeeper had nagged me to use for years. Then I changed the household auto-pay contributions so my half transferred in, not whatever amount happened to be missing. It took 11 minutes. I sat at the kitchen table afterward, feeling as if I had dismantled a machine I hadn't realized I was inside. At noon, Owen Price called. Owen was Nolan's business partner, a careful man with silver-framed glasses and a permanent expression of having just remembered an appointment. "I'm trying not to step into anything," he said. "Then this is a risky phone call." He gave a brief, unhappy laugh. "Nolan says the launch inventory may not be available." "My inventory won't be. We've budgeted for rentals if necessary." "Good. He seemed to think you'd change your mind. He tends to confuse a plan with someone else doing what he wants." Owen was quiet. I had known him for 5 years, long enough to hear the things he declined to say. "Did the firm pay for a furnished apartment for Camille?" I asked. His breath caught softly. "Elise, you need to ask Nolan." "I did. I can't discuss personnel expenses." "She isn't personnel. She's an outside consultant." "That doesn't make it easier." "Was it near the Harlow?" "I'm sorry." He ended the call more politely than Nolan had. An hour later, Marcus phoned from Safekeep. Diane had arrived demanding access. When he refused, she told him the unit contained marital property and threatened to hold the facility responsible if anything disappeared. "I don't know what's yours and what's his," Marcus said. "I can't referee that. The lease is mine. The lease controls access. I'm talking about the contents. Your husband emailed old event correspondence showing that his firm has used items from the unit." I closed my eyes. "He borrowed them. I figured there was more to it. I'm just telling you what he's claiming." "Did you let Diane in?" "No." The answer loosened something in my chest. "But you should document what's there," he said, "for your own sake." I spent the afternoon photographing every shelf, table, lamp, and box. Receipts existed for most of it, scattered between old email accounts and a filing cabinet at home. I wrote dates on masking tape and stuck labels beneath objects Nolan had never learned to identify. On the floor behind the linen cabinet, the suitcase wheel cap had left a clean black circle in the dust. My phone buzzed while I was photographing it. The message came from an unknown number. "This is Camille Rowe. Nolan told me not to contact you, but Diane still has my things. I need to know what she told you." I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I typed, "What things?" 3 dots appeared, vanished, and returned. My luggage, clothes, work equipment. Diane said she would keep everything safe until Nolan arranged the new apartment. Now neither of them will tell me where it is. I sat down on the concrete floor beside a box labeled Green Stemless, 24. Were you staying in an apartment Nolan arranged? Camille called instead of answering. I let it ring twice. Hello? Did he tell you I was his mistress? She asked. No greeting. No careful entry into the conversation. Her voice sounded strained, stripped of the calm she'd worn in the hallway. He told me you weren't. A short laugh came through the phone. That sounds like him. My hand tightened around the little suitcase wheel cap in my pocket. Are you? I don't know what word you want. The accurate one. We've been seeing each other. The storage unit seemed to narrow around me. How long? Elise, I didn't call to do this on the phone. You called to get your luggage. Yes. Then answer me. Since November. 4 months. Long enough to include Thanksgiving at Diane's, the Harlow cocktail party, our anniversary weekend in Savannah, and at least 6 nights Nolan had come home after midnight smelling like hotel soap. I put my palm flat on the cold floor. Did you know he was married? Yes. Her honesty was almost obscene. What did he tell you? That you were separated in every way except physically. That you were staying in the house until the firm launched because your businesses were financially tangled. He said you knew he was moving on. We ate curry together 2 nights ago. I know that now. You met me in December. He said you insisted on attending firm events to preserve appearances. I designed that event. I know. No, you don't. She went quiet. I could hear traffic behind her and the quick click of a turn signal. She was in a car. Where are you? I asked. Parked. Near my unit? No, I'm not going near that place. Why? Because Diane told me you threatened to report the luggage stolen. I didn't. She said you were trying to trap Nolan into admitting an affair so you could take his share of the firm. I laughed, and the sound bounced off the metal walls. I don't own his firm. I figured that out. How? Owen asked me why a consultant needed a furnished apartment on a local project. That explained Owen's silence. Camille continued. Nolan said relocation housing was standard. Then yesterday he told me Owen was reviewing expenses and that I needed to leave the apartment immediately. Diane was supposed to hold my things for 1 night. In my unit. He said it belonged to him. Of course he did. I believed him. You believed a lot? Yes. Her voice sharpened. I did. You're not the only person who was lied to. No, I'm the person whose home he returned to after lying to you. The turn signal stopped clicking. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said. I need my work drive, my clothes, and my passport. Diane moved everything. She won't answer. A passport isn't something she gets to hold. She says she'll hand it to Nolan. Why? Because she thinks I'm panicking and making things worse. I closed my eyes. I could hear Diane saying it, that brisk hospital administrator tone turning control into care. What do you have from Nolan? I asked. Messages. About the unit? Some. Send them. Help me get my belongings first. I opened my eyes. You're bargaining with me using evidence of my own husband's affair. I'm protecting myself. With my information. With the only thing anyone in this family seems to value. The words hit because they were unfair and because they weren't entirely wrong. Meet me at Marlowe Coffee in an hour, I said. Bring identification and a list of what's missing. You sound like you're producing an event. It's how I keep people from changing the facts. Camille arrived 11 minutes late in jeans, flat boots, and no makeup. Without the camel jacket and controlled expression, she looked less glamorous and more exhausted. She placed a folded sheet of hotel stationery on the table between us. 2 black suitcases, 1 leather laptop bag, 1 garment bag, 1 gray document pouch. You wrote this at the Harlow? I'm still working there. Owen hasn't terminated my contract. Does he know about you and Nolan? He knows enough to avoid elevators with me. A barista called someone's name. Camille flinched before she seemed to realize it wasn't hers. I looked at the list. Where did Diane take these? She said her own storage locker, but I don't know where it is. I do. Diane rented a climate-controlled unit across town for holiday decorations, old hospital files, and furniture she had been threatening to sell for 7 years. Elise, can you help me organize it? And had been waiting in my text messages since January. Camille wrapped both hands around her coffee. Nolan said you didn't care where he slept. Nolan complains if I put the fitted sheet on with the tag at the top instead of the bottom. Her mouth twitched. The almost smile angered me more than contempt would have. Don't, I said. I'm sorry. You don't get to find him ridiculous with me. You're right. That answer left me nowhere comfortable. She unlocked her phone and showed me a message thread without handing it over. Nolan's name appeared above weeks of ordinary intimacy. Have you eaten? Use the side entrance. She thinks I'm at the office. Mom loved you. One message from the day before stopped me. Take the bags to Elise's unit first. Mom has my code. I'll move them after dinner. Send me that. When I have my things. I can't force Diane to open her unit. You can get her to come. How? Camille looked at me steadily. Tell her Nolan's firm knows about the apartment. I sat back. Does it? Owen knows enough to ask. Diane won't risk Nolan's partnership. There it was again, risk calculated through Nolan's comfort. I folded the list and put it in my purse. I'll contact Diane. If she agrees to a supervised pickup, you send me the messages before you leave with the bags. All of them? All the ones involving me, my property, my storage unit, or money from the firm. Camille's eyes narrowed. You negotiate like him. No, he makes promises with other people's assets. I'm telling you exactly what I'll do. Diane opened her condo door wearing a pale blue blouse and one gold earring. The other sat on the entry table beside a stack of retirement cards. If you're here to discuss the flowers, I chose white roses. I'm here about Camille's passport. Her face closed. Keep your voice down. You live alone. The neighbors don't. I stepped inside without being invited. Diane's condo looked ready for a real estate photograph. Cream sofa, abstract prints, a bowl of lemons that had remained too perfect for 3 weeks. On the dining table, my printed event spreadsheet was covered in angry yellow notes. Diane put in her second earring. Camille is behaving erratically. She wants her property. Nolan is arranging delivery. He isn't answering her. He has work. He had time to transfer $8,000 out of our account. That surprised her. Her gaze flickered toward me, then away. He's protecting himself. From his wife? From disruption. I took Camille's list from my purse and placed it on the table. Her things are in your storage locker. I'll arrange for Marcus to witness the pickup tomorrow. Marcus works at your facility. Then we'll use the manager at yours. No. Why not? Because this has become grotesque. What part? The affair or the inventory procedure? Diane pulled out a dining chair and sat. For the first time since I arrived, she looked her age. I told Nolan this would happen. You told him not to have an affair? I told him he couldn't continue delaying a decision. The room went quiet except for the refrigerator motor. You knew, I said. I knew he was unhappy. That isn't what I asked. He spoke to me in confidence. I laughed softly. He used you to move his mistress's luggage. Camille is not some tawdry woman he picked up in a bar. No, she has excellent boots. Diane pressed her lips together. I stayed standing. Why my unit? It was available. So was yours. Mine is across town. Why did you tell her to hurry before I came? Because Nolan said you usually collected things for my dinner on Fridays. I thought we had time. The admission was so plain that it hurt more than another lie. You planned around my routine. We were trying to avoid upsetting you before he was ready to speak. You mean before he was ready to lose what I do for him? That's a very transactional way to describe a marriage. You're holding another woman's passport to protect his launch. Diane's cheeks colored. I leaned closer. Tomorrow at 10. Camille gets everything. And if I refuse? Owen learns the apartment wasn't relocation housing. The restaurant learns you're responsible for your own remaining balances. And I stop protecting your son from the logistical consequences of his decisions. Her eyes hardened. You think spreadsheets make you powerful? No. I think knowing where things are makes it harder for people to pretend they disappeared. When I reached the door, she said, Camille believes in what Nolan is building. I turned. There it is, I said. What? The reason you like her. Diane lifted her chin. She doesn't make him apologize for wanting more. I helped him build every launch event he couldn't afford. I covered the mortgage when his commissions were late. I fed clients in our home. What exactly did I stop him from wanting? You keep score. I started keeping score after I noticed I was always losing. She looked at the retirement cards instead of me. My marriage survived things you will never understand, she said. You don't throw away a life because someone reached outside it. Did yours survive? Or did you? Her face changed. I hadn't known where the question came from until I saw the answer. Diane walked to the door and opened it. 10 o'clock. The pickup happened at 11:20 because Diane claimed traffic, then arrived with only one suitcase. Camille stood beside me in the storage office, arms folded. Where's the rest? She asked. This is what Nolan gave me. You took both cases from Elise's unit. I did not. Marcus had agreed to let us meet there because the original transfer involved his facility, but he stayed behind the counter with the expression of a man reconsidering every career choice that led to self-storage. Camille pointed at the suitcase. One wheel was missing its black cap. I took the cap from my pocket and pressed it into the hollow center. It fit. Diane looked at it, then at me. A small payoff, useless by itself, undeniable in the room. That proves the case was there, Diane said. No one disputes that. You did, I said. I disputed your interpretation. Camille stepped forward. My passport is in the gray pouch. Nolan has it. Her face drained. Why? He said he would keep it safe. Marcus stood. Ma'am, I don't want personal documents left on this property if there's a dispute. They aren't here, Diane snapped. Camille pulled out her phone. I'm calling him. Nolan answered on the first ring. His voice came through the speaker. Where are you? At safekeep. Where's my passport? Why are you with Elise? Where is it? I'll bring it tonight. I need all my things. You're making this much harder than it needs to be. Camille looked at me, and something in her expression settled. You said that about her too, she said. Nolan went silent. Camille ended the call. Then she sent me 12 screenshots. The last was an audio message. Nolan's voice filled the small office, warm and hurried. Mom will meet you at Elise's unit. Use my storage code 6149. Get both bags behind the linen cabinet and I'll move them after dinner. Elise won't be there until next Friday. Marcus slowly turned toward his computer. I still have the loading bay footage, he said. Nolan arrived before he could pull it up. He came through the office door breathing hard, Camille's gray document pouch in one hand and our house keys in the other. His eyes found the wheel cap in my palm, the open message thread on my phone, and Marcus reaching for the security archive. For the first time, Nolan did not tell me I had imagined anything. Nolan set the gray pouch on the counter. Camille grabbed it, unzipped it, and pulled out her passport. Only after checking the photograph page did she seem to breathe. You went through this, she said. No. The zipper was clipped to the side ring. It isn't now. I needed to know what Mom had given me. You knew what was in it. Nolan looked at Marcus. This is a private family matter. Marcus's hand remained on the mouse. It became a facility matter when someone used an access code to move property in and out. I'm an authorized user. Not anymore. At the time. You were, Marcus said, which is why I'm allowed to show the account holder who used her access. He clicked a file. The loading bay camera had no sound. Its view was wide and slightly distorted, the colors washed gray by overhead lights. At 12:11, a dark sedan pulled through the gate. Nolan's sedan. At 12:14, Nolan crossed the frame, wearing the navy jacket he had worn to the Harlow dinner. He entered the corridor alone. 3 minutes later, he came out pulling Camille's black suitcase. The missing wheel cap made the case wobble behind him. Nolan watched himself stop at the car, lift the suitcase into the trunk, and return for something smaller. On his second trip, he carried Camille's leather laptop bag. Marcus paused the recording. Nolan put our house keys into his coat pocket. I was cleaning up a situation Mom handled badly. Camille stared at him. You told me you couldn't leave the dinner. I left early. You told me Owen drove you home. He did. Your car is right there. I picked it up. From where? Nolan's jaw moved once. Does it matter? It had mattered when he made me explain how I could see his keys from the driveway. It had mattered when he told me I was alone in the dark, frightening myself. Now the camera had flattened his explanations into silent movements, and suddenly details were beneath him. Where did you take the suitcase? I asked. To Mom's unit. Diane folded her arms. Not directly. Nolan turned toward her. She looked tired and furious, but mostly furious at having been left with the weakest position. You took it back to the apartment first, she said. You called me the next morning because Owen wanted the apartment inspected. Camille's head snapped toward him. You came to the apartment? I needed the project files. While I was waiting for you at the hotel? Elise had caused a scene. I was trying to keep everybody calm. I caused a scene by seeing something, I said. You confronted my mother in a hallway. You accused me during a client dinner. You cut off access to equipment my firm relies on. You hid your mistress's luggage in my storage unit. His eyes met mine. The word no longer made him laugh. I used my code, he said. I moved the case. I should have told you. Marcus let the video continue. Nolan's image drove out through the gate. You used your code because you knew mine would show my name, I said. I used mine because it was mine. You planned around the day I collect inventory. I was trying to buy 24 hours. For what? He looked at Camille, then Diane, as though the answer might exist somewhere among the women who had each been assigned a different version of him. For time, he said. Camille laughed without humor. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She reached for the single suitcase Diane had brought. Where's the rest? Diane glanced at Nolan. He said nothing. At my unit, she admitted. We're going there now, Camille said. I have my retirement dinner tonight. Then you should have left my passport where you found it. Diane's mouth tightened. The restaurant doesn't permit luggage. I almost smiled. Even cornered, she could locate a policy. Marcus offered to call the manager at her facility and explain that a disputed property pickup was coming. Diane objected until he asked whether she preferred Camille to arrive unannounced. 20 minutes later, the four of us drove across town in 3 separate cars. Nolan followed me into the parking lot. Elise, wait. I kept walking toward my car. This isn't how we should have this conversation. There is no version of this conversation you should get to arrange. I'm not asking to arrange it. You scheduled an affair around my inventory calendar. He caught the edge of my door before I could close it. I never meant for you to see any of that. I know. His face tightened. That was the first truth he had offered me all morning. My pain had not been part of his plan, because I had not been part of his plan. I was the floor under it. The account that cleared, the chairs that arrived, the woman whose routines could be studied and used. I am sorry, he said. I believe you. Hope appeared so quickly in his expression that I hated him for making me kill it. You're sorry I saw it, I said. You were fine when I was living inside it. At Diane's facility, Camille recovered her garment bag, laptop case, second suitcase, and 2 taped boxes she had not listed. She opened everything while the manager watched. One box contained clothes. The other held Harlow presentation boards and stacks of material samples. There had been textiles after all. Camille held up a square of blue fabric nearly identical to the linen Diane had pulled over her suitcase. For one absurd second, all 4 of us looked at it. Then Camille started laughing. Not because it was funny, I thought, but because every lie Nolan told had included just enough truth to make the person questioning it sound unreasonable. She sent me the rest of the messages before she left. There was no warm exchange between us. She did not apologize again, and I did not tell her we had both been used. We had not been used in the same way. At her car, she said, "He told me you treated marriage like a business. He told me you were business." She absorbed that, nodded once, and drove away with the suitcases. Diane's retirement dinner went forward without my chairs, glassware, lighting, printed menus, or supervision. The restaurant already owned enough chairs. Jenna found 6 plain vases in a supply closet. Diane approved the white roses herself and accidentally ordered arrangements tall enough to block conversation across the tables. At 5:30, she texted me a photograph of the private room. "This feels very impersonal." I replied with Jenna's phone number. Nolan came home after the dinner. I was at the kitchen table with the joint account statements, household bills, and a legal pad divided into mine, his, and shared. He dropped his keys into the green dish. This time the sound did not turn my head. "Mom kept an empty seat for you," he said. "I didn't ask her to." "She spent half the night explaining why you weren't there." She could have told the truth. What truth? That you withdrew from her dinner to punish me? I withdrew from work she never intended to pay for. She's family. Then you could have done it. He pulled out the chair across from me. Owen froze my firm card. Why? You know why. I know why. He had questions. The apartment was a legitimate project expense. Did you sleep there? He looked down at the statements. Then it was at least partly a personal expense, I said. Are you returning the money you moved? I needed liquidity for the launch rentals. You used our money because I stopped donating my equipment. It's my money, too. Half of it is. I'm not going to debate percentages while my company is under attack. Your company isn't under attack. Owen is checking what you charged to it. Because Camille gave him messages. I didn't send Owen anything, but you knew she would. I shook my head. You still think every consequence has a woman operating it. He leaned forward. What do you want, Elise? The question sounded sincere. It might have been the first time he had asked it without already knowing which answer would suit him. I want the $8,000 returned. I want a complete list of shared bills. I want you to repay the firm for whatever portion of that apartment Owen determines was personal. And I want you to move your clothes to your mother's condo until we decide how to divide the house. His eyes stayed on mine. Divide the house. Yes. You're ending our marriage over 4 months. No, I'm ending it over the last 4 days. He sat back as if I had spoken nonsense. I could forgive an affair, I said. I don't know if I could, but I can imagine the shape of it. I can imagine anger, loneliness, vanity. 2 people making selfish decisions. What I can't imagine forgiving is you standing beside me in that office with your hand on my shoulder, trying to make me distrust my own eyes while you knew your car was on camera. I panicked. You were prepared. I was scared. You were specific. He looked away. The firm launch took place the following Thursday at the Harlow. Owen paid me for 2 hours of handoff work after I sent a written scope and an invoice. I gave the rental company measurements, sent the lighting vendor its final diagram, and answered exactly 3 questions from hotel staff. At 7, my work was finished. The room looked respectable. Beige rental glassware replaced my sea green pieces. The rented lamps were too bright. The linen stopped an inch above the floor, and 1 row of presentation boards leaned because Nolan had declined the more expensive supports. Nothing was ruined. Nothing was rescued. I put my laptop into its case as Nolan entered the ballroom in a new charcoal suit. You came, he said. Owen hired me. His smile faded. Right. Across the room, Owen spoke with 2 investors. He had not removed Nolan from the firm. He had required repayment for the apartment, taken sole control of project spending, and delayed their planned expansion until the Harlow accounts were settled. Nolan still had a career. It simply had another adult watching the door. Diane arrived in the same pale blue blouse she had worn when I confronted her. She surveyed the room and stopped beside a table. "These glasses look cheap. They're commercial rentals. Your green ones would have photographed beautifully. They're in my unit." Her gaze moved to me. "I know." Nolan adjusted his cuff. "Could we not do this tonight?" Diane picked up one of the glasses, inspected the rim, and put it down. "Camille isn't coming." Owen ended her contract after the presentation files were delivered. I asked if she was coming. No. Something like relief crossed Diane's face, followed by disappointment that she could not disguise quickly enough. An event assistant approached Nolan with a question about the microphone. He looked at me automatically. I closed my laptop case. "The sound technician is by the stage," I said. He went without arguing. 10 minutes before the doors opened, he found me in the service corridor. "I need one thing. If it's on my scope, email me. I need you to stand with me when I welcome everyone." "No, just for the remarks. I'm leaving. If you walk out now, everyone will know." "Know what?" "That something is wrong. Something is wrong." He lowered his voice. "Owen knows. Mom knows. Camille knows. We don't need to turn my entire professional life into a referendum on our marriage. I'm not announcing anything. I'm going home. To pack." "Yes." He put one hand against the wall, blocking the easiest path without quite blocking me. "I ended it with Camille. She may have ended it with you. I ended it. Congratulations on locating control." His hand fell. "I love that you made things solid," he said. "Do you understand? Everything with the firm is unstable. Clients change their minds. Projects disappear. Money comes late. You made a home that worked. And Camille? She made me feel like I wasn't always disappointing someone." I almost laughed. "You mean she hadn't known you long enough?" His face crumpled for a second, then steadied. "Mom thought Camille understood the life I wanted. Your mother understood that Camille admired you and I knew you. That's not fair. No, it's accurate." He looked toward the ballroom doors. Voices were gathering beyond them. He had 7 minutes before he needed to welcome a room full of people. "I can change," he said. "Maybe. You don't believe me. I believe consequences can change behavior. I don't know if they can change what you think a wife is for." He closed his eyes. Behind him, an event assistant called his name. I stepped around him. "Elise." I stopped. "I did use the code," he said. "I told Mom where to put the bags. I went back after dinner and moved them. You didn't imagine any of it." The confession would have saved something 4 days earlier. In the service corridor, given only after the log, the messages, the wheel cap, the footage, and Camille's property had removed every exit. It saved nothing. "I know," I said. Then I left him to his launch. The separation took months because real things take time. Nolan returned the $8,000 in 2 installments. We sold the house after arguing over repairs, closing costs, and a dining table neither of us actually wanted. He stayed at Diane's longer than either of them enjoyed. Owen kept the firm intact, though Nolan had to earn back authority 1 invoice at a time. I rented a smaller apartment 12 minutes from my studio. The storage unit remained mine. I kept the code to myself. On my last evening at the house, I found the green glass key dish wrapped in newspaper at the bottom of a kitchen box. Nolan stood in the doorway while I unwrapped it. "I thought that was ours," he said. "So did I." He did not try to take it. In the apartment, I placed it beside the door and dropped my new key into it. The clear note rang once through rooms that held only what I had chosen to bring.